if you were raised in an environment where you had parents that told you that you're too emotional, you're too much, your feelings don't matter, you take everything out of context, you're too sensitive, what's wrong with you, you're the problem, basically, you're going to develop a part of you that's afraid to express herself or ask for what you need because of the fear that's still lingering in your body that your inner child is holding on to.
Hey, soul family. Welcome to the Alive and Awake podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Kay, and I have spent the last 20 years teaching people how to work with their wounds and overcome their greatest fears so they can learn how to thrive in a world where they were only taught to conform. Each week, we will dive deep into the practical, the spiritual, and the mystical so I can teach you how to do the inner work to know yourself, trust yourself, and eventually love yourself enough to create a world where you feel fully alive, awake, and free. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode. Ready? Let's dive in.
Hey there. Welcome to another episode. I cannot believe that we are 41 episodes in. I'm like, where the heck did the time go? And if I'm honest, there's a big part of my ego and this other piece of me that's, I don't know if this is really working. Why are you doing this thing? Why are you even spending your time talking to a screen when I don't even know if anybody's listening? And I have to work very diligently to follow the inner call of my soul that knows that me coming here and showing up online and speaking to you is making a difference. So if it is making a difference, let me know. Give me the inspiration to keep creating this content because it is so nourishing for me to know that if I'm only impacting at least one person with the things that I'm sharing, then that gives me the ambition to continue to follow my inner call. And with that being said, today we are going to dive into why it's so hard for the feminine and the masculine, really, to speak their truth and to say how they feel. We have been so conditioned to hide our true feelings and to not trust our inner knowing that we gaslight ourselves and we talk ourselves out of things in order to keep the peace and to keep harmony in relationships. So, this episode is going to be all about why that's ineffective, why it doesn't work, and why radical honesty and speaking your truth, even if it's uncomfortable, is the most self honoring, soul nourishing thing that you can do, not only for yourself, but whoever you're in a conscious connection with. So stay tuned to the very end of the episode because it's going to be a good one. And I'm going to be giving you some tools on how to have conversations that come from the heart, where you are clear, you're boundaried, and you're firm, and you don't feel like you need to back down or sacrifice yourself in any way. Because I will tell you, it is a battle. We have so much fear in our bodies around using our voice, feeling safe being seen, feeling safe being heard. And that not only comes from the traumas and the circumstances that we've endured in this life, it is a massive, like, collective fear. So, generally, what happens when you go to say how you feel, or you know that there's something inside of you that you need to say, but you're scared to say it, something happens in your nervous system where you start to get all shaky and your voice will start to tremble. And you notice that your heart is like beating out of your chest. And the words that are coming out of your mouth aren't the words that you have in your head of what you mean to say. And you're in a full blown trauma response, even though your brain in real time or your human self knows I'm safe right now. What is going on inside of me? So, everything that's bubbling up in you in that split second of a moment is every single time that you've ever been diminished for your emotional expression, any single time you've ever been made fun of or hurt or punished for being too emotional comes flooding to the surface in real time. And that actually is because there's undigested, unprocessed fear in your body that's being activated by what you're doing in the very present moment. And one of the first times I remember this happening to me was very early in my career, where I got a job in a rape crisis center. I was working in domestic violence, and I was asked to be on certain committees like the LGBTQ committee, the what was another committee that I was in? The trauma informed committee, the mental health committee. Like I was on all these things. And of course, I was asked to do presentations on trauma informed care and how to work with someone who just gets attacked or assaulted or those types of things. And in my mind, I was like, I'm capable of this. I can do this. But the minute that I got up there to teach in front of other professionals, it was like a deer in the headlights happened to me. I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And I had all these eyes on me, and all this stuff was activating. I felt like I was sweating, I was shaking, like the words coming out of my mouth were like, like they were vibrating really funny. And I don't think anybody really cared, but I did because I felt really embarrassed. And eventually I just had to stick with it and continue to go through the slides and continue talking. And then eventually my nervous system calmed down and I was able to get into a flow and into a rhythm of what I was called to teach. But after that experience, I was like, what the F was that? Like, I had no idea. I was fresh out of college. I was in my 20s. Like, I had never had that experience happen like that before. And after I started learning more about trauma and what was coming up, I was like, oh my gosh, there is a part of me inside that is deathly afraid to be seen, to be visible. And that part of me was or is my inner child, because any single time that I went to express how I felt, or I don't even know about that. Take that back. That's not necessarily true, but it may be for some of you, because if you were raised in an environment where you had parents that told you that you're too emotional, you're too much, your feelings don't matter, you take everything out of context, you're too sensitive, what's wrong with you, you're the problem, basically, you're going to develop a part of you that's afraid to express herself or ask for what you need because of the fear that's still lingering in your body that your inner child is holding on to. If you're like me, I had a situation where I felt like I was invisible, as in the people around me, because I was raised, if you know my story, by a teenage mom who just basically, I was her friend. Like wherever she went, I went. If she was partying, I was there. If she was with her boyfriend, I was there. Like she was a single mom. She was young. She was a teenager. And so I was just this child that went along with her in her life. And she didn't know that I had emotional needs. I certainly didn't know that. But it was as if a part of me, like how do I say this? My true self, my authentic self, had to hide in the background to go along and be whatever she needed me to be in order to survive, because we lived in such turmoil constantly, and inconsistency and chaos and trauma and drugs and alcohol and violence and all of the things that of course I'm going to hide myself. Of course I'm not going to express myself. That came later in my teenage years when I started to get outwardly aggressive and angry around certain things that were going on. But the blueprint of what my nervous system was holding on to was, I don't matter, my voice doesn't matter, my needs don't matter, and my emotions don't matter. If I am the good girl, if I'm getting good grades, if I'm performing, if I'm perfect, if I'm making everything on the outside look normal, then I will be loved and I'll be accepted. So it is a very important thing that the brain does for us when we're younger, is this ability to adapt and survive and mold ourselves into whatever our caregivers need us to be so that we are not rejected. Because rejection is the ego's ultimate fear. And if you've been listening to me long enough, you know that the ego is the part of you that wants to protect you. Its primary job in this life is to keep you safe at all costs. Now, there's another part of our I don't want to say it's of us because it's not of us. There's another energetic force called the adversarial voice or the inner shamer that actually is not you, but it will attach to your ego and it will attach to your inner child and the unresolved trauma, and it will beat you up mentally and it will attack you emotionally. And it will tell you things like, why do you even bother speaking up? Nobody cares what you have to say. Nobody cares about your feelings. Every single time you say what's on your mind, someone leaves you. Or every single time you speak your truth, nobody really cares anyway. So why bother saying anything at all? Those are the things that start to happen in your brain when you're underneath an adversarial attack, because it's using the unprocessed trauma that's not digested in you to attack you every single time you go to speak your truth or you go to say how you feel. And because many of us were raised in environments where the love that we received was based on conditions, we have a part of us that's afraid to show up in our radical honesty and our radical authenticity. Where was I going with that? Oh, because love was based on conditions. If I'm doing well, if I'm performing well, if I'm not emotional, if I'm quiet, then I'll get the love that I need. So these methods are very intelligent and it's based on your need to survive the environment that you're in until you're out of that later in life and you can start to pick apart what really was something that your brain decided to bring into existence so that you could get through the situation, and what you need to work through and heal so that it clears out of your body so that you can feel safe doing whatever you're doing in the world and saying whatever you need to say to whoever you need to say it. And in order to do that, we have to get very familiar about the things that happen to us that's causing that fear to bubble up in us, because the fear is what your higher self doesn't want you to feel. And your higher self will arrange circumstances in your outer reality so that you can start to challenge the part of you that was conditioned to play small, to believe that she isn't valued, to believe that she is too much or not enough, or believe that she'll be rejected if she's honest and if she asks for what she needs and if she says what she wants in the world. We are being called in a massive way to rise above that and to challenge that. But in order to do that, we have to be so brave and we have to face our fears and we have to get to the bottom of why our higher selves don't want us to live in that type of condemnation. Because our younger child parts were taught that in order to receive love, we have to be obedient, we have to follow orders, and we have to allow others to control us. And that's what comes flooding through us in a millisecond the minute we go to ask for what we want. So, as the feminine, because our gender in general has been in a disempowered, weakened, lesser state, it automatically comes up when we're in front of people. And it even gets even more intense the more we care about somebody or the more we feel like we need to make a good impression. And all this pressure comes in for us to perform. And then we're not really operating from our true, authentic, real self. So we have to put it into practice in order to clear this out, in order to feel safe expressing ourselves and using our voice and standing in our authentic truth. And let me tell you, ladies, once you get there, once you find how free it feels to be in your body and to not feel responsible for taking care of the other person's emotions, it is like a whole new world opens up to you because you start to learn that love is not something that's disconnected, right? Let me say that in a different way. So when you're in a relationship and you're not speaking your truth, what happens is that love becomes disconnected performance. So you're wearing a mask, you're pretending you're fine, you're hiding your true feelings, and then the relationship will automatically start to break down because you're not operating from your authenticity. And then the person that you're with, whether that's a friend, intimate partner, relationship at work, like it doesn't matter. If it's not built on your radical, honest truth of who you are, and you're hiding or you're pretending out of survival or in order to maintain the relationship, it will automatically break down because it's based on performance and it's a false illusion. It's not real because you're not your real self in it. The other thing that will happen is that the boundaries that you start to set start to become resentments. And what I mean by that is like women tend to have wishy-washy boundaries. And unlike the masculine, who not all, I don't want to, this is not a blanket statement, but generally speaking, the masculine is much better at setting a boundary and keeping it and not budging from it. Women, on the other hand, we tend to have a little bit more wishy-washy boundaries where we'll say that we want something and we'll say the primary example coming up with me is my son. So I'm a single mom and he is a very strong-willed child. Like he is my personality through and through. I love him for it. It's great. But when I get super busy, I tend to not follow through on things that I said. For instance, what's coming to my mind is video games. So I tell him no video games on school nights. And if I have a meeting or I have to work or I have to get something done, then I'll let him have the video game. And before you know it, he starts to automatically think that he can have the video game on school nights again because I wasn't super strict in my boundary. And so it was like, it's wishy-washy for him. He doesn't know because I'm not enforcing it. And it's the same thing with any kind of a relationship that we're in. Men or children or people learn that she's not really that serious if she's not following through with it and if she's not enforcing it. So then we feel like we're getting taken advantage of. And then the boundary we set starts to become a resentment because the other person on the other end, or we tell ourselves the story that the other person on the other end isn't respecting it, because we'll tend to let it go, or we tend to not stay on top of it because maybe we feel bad. Like I said, with my son, sometimes I get super, super busy and I let it go, but it has to be something that we say is true for us all of the time, because then the people around us don't take us seriously. And then we start to resent the person because we have wishy-washy boundaries. It's not that they're not respecting it, it's that we're not enforcing it. So when we're not constantly staying true to what we know is best for us, and we're not holding people to that standard, or we're not holding them accountable, then resentment starts to build in us because we're not being honest with ourselves and we're not making the other person on the other end take us seriously. And the other thing that happens when we're not speaking our truth or we're not holding tight to our standard is that the relationships that we're in become illusions. And we're playing these roles that really aren't in alignment with the truth of who we are. And it reminds me of when I was younger and I was in a less awakened state and I was still operating from survival and I didn't know enough about myself yet, where the marriage that I had was based on illusion because for the first year of the relationship, I pretended, not pretended, I don't want to say that. It wasn't conscious, it wasn't a choice. There was a part of me that believed that in order to keep the relationship, or in order to receive love, or in order to be desired, I had to be the cool girl, or the girl that was super fun and liked to party a lot and liked to have sex all the time and didn't take things too seriously. And I was really easygoing. And I played this persona out where the relationship was built on illusions and essentially a false reality, because that's not really who I am. The truth is I'm bitchy and I don't really love to have sex all the time. And I don't like when the house is messy. And I don't really like cooking dinner constantly. And so I tried to be this person in order to be desired. And it ended up obviously crumbling because it was built on an illusion or a false sense of self. And this is why relationships often don't last, because eventually your soul, your higher self will come online and wake you up and be like, what are you doing? And we don't know that it's us not living in our own authenticity and us not living in the radical truth of who we are that's going on. And we tend to blame our partners or project things onto our partners or project things onto the people we love or that we care about because we're not being honest with ourselves. So, this is why it's so important to be radically honest and to not build your relationship on illusion. But I also will say that your higher self arranged every single person that you've ever come into contact with to do this work with, because there is something called spiritual amnesia, where the first half of your life is designed for you to work through trauma and karma and intergenerational programming and wounding in order for you to play out things for you to eventually wake up to the truth of your divinity and who you are and the purpose and the work that you came here to do in the world. So it arranges these things. So I don't want you to say, or no, I don't want you to shame yourself or to judge yourself in any kind of a way for anything that you've done in the past when you were in an unawakened, disembodied, disempowered state. Like that part of me, I look at her and I think about the pain that I was in. I had no idea how much I was really suffering until I really started to dig into my father wound, my mother wound, the trauma I endured, why I was so scared of love or receiving love or letting love in or being myself or showing up as myself. I had to do a lot of work to excavate this. And this is why I created my online course, Winning the War Within, because there is a war going on within yourself and your psyche and your soul that wants you to wake up to the truth of who you are and feel comfortable expressing your emotion and asking for what you need and standing in the truth of your divinity as the feminine empowered in this life. I'm actually launching that in 1 month. So if you want the pre-launch price, thank you can get on my email list and you can start to look for that to come. So I'm going to open it early for 1 week for people to get a massive discount on that course if you feel called to do your inner work and to win the war that's going on within you. And module 4 is actually winning the war on your sacred voice. And I go way more in depth about how to do this work with you and how to really feel comfortable speaking your truth and standing in your authentic, radical power. 1 second. What am I saying? Oh, when women have wishy-washy boundaries, what we do is we find ourselves making excuse, or when we fear speaking our truth, or we fear holding somebody accountable, we're super wishy-washy and we tend to justify unacceptable behavior. We justify unacceptable behavior. So for instance, if my son is talking back to me, if my son is raising his voice at me, there's a part of me that wants to come in and wants to say, he had a really long day. He's got a lot on his plate right now. And in those moments, we have to notice the voice in us that's doing that and channel our inner masculine, channel the masculine energy inside of us to say, no, even if he had a bad day, even if he's overtired, even if he's got a lot on his plate, disrespecting me is not an option. Because there's something that we have to learn in life, that you don't get to be a jerk just because you're having a bad day. It's our job to hold them accountable for that and say in the most loving way that we can possible is, hey, listen, I know you've had a bad day. I know you got a lot on your plate, but the way you're talking to me is unacceptable. If you continue to do that, we're going to have to talk about consequences. And yes, I know that I'm talking about this with my son, but you can apply that to any relationship. It doesn't matter who it is. Nobody in their human right mind has the right to disrespect you, especially as a woman that's standing in her power and her authority, walking this earth plane right now. It is unacceptable. It's lower vibrational. And if we don't start to call it out, then the people around us don't have the opportunity to rise. And so what we do is we often feel bad. There's this huge part of me that says, I feel bad if I'm making someone uncomfortable by me speaking my truth. So let it be known that the part of you that feels bad is the part of you that was conditioned to have something called extrinsic guilt. So extrinsic guilt is something that this society put on you that is not yours. It's through societal programming and through these unprocessed, unconscious fears that are living within you that come from outside sources. Meaning, I feel bad if I ask somebody to change the way they're treating me. I feel bad if I have to change plans. For me, it used to be, I feel bad if I charge a cancellation fee. I feel bad if I actually tell this person how I'm really feeling and then I hurt their feelings. That actually is coming from a place of survival where we've been taught to hide our truth because the other people around us were not mature enough to hear us, listen to us, give us the love we needed, and take our wants, needs, opinions, values into consideration because we were young. And the way that we've been taught to treat children is evolving now, but most of us were raised in states where our emotions were not validated. So it's important, yes, to validate the emotion. I know that what I have to say is going to be really hard to hear, but if I don't say it, I'm afraid that I'm going to sabotage this relationship, or I'm going to blow up, or I'm going to act out in a way that I also don't want to do either. So when can we talk about this? This needs to come out of me so that we can have clean and clear energy, so that I can operate in my authentic self and that I can be the best version of me for you. When we're not living in our authority and when we're not living in alignment with what is right for us, then we don't show up for the people that we love in an authentic, real, genuine way. And that's not what people want. Because let me tell you, the people that are meant for you, the people who are in this life that are here to support you and be on your side, they want you to be happy. They don't want you to hide how you really feel. They want to know if something that they're doing is bothering you. And if they don't, and they don't want to hear it, and they are giving you a problem about it or gaslighting you or making you feel like you're wrong for feeling the way you're feeling, that is a high conflict personality that your higher self arranged for you to be in a relationship with, so you can play the game of learning what it feels like to stand in your power and stand in your authority. And my opinion anyways, is that every person has someone in their life that is the sandpaper for them to rise into their authenticity. We need those people to show us where our boundaries are crossed, what's making us angry, what's upsetting us, and really help us get clear on what our truth is and how we demand to be treated in this lifetime. They are used to show us where we are not living in alignment with the truth of who we are and how powerful we are. Now, once you do get to a different vibration and you start to rise up into your consciousness, those lower vibrational energies and those high conflict personalities, they can't get to you anymore. Like narcissists and like other people, I don't attract them in because the work is done. Like they can't even reach me on that level. But that's available to every single one of us. So we stay in a lower vibrational level in a different disempowered energetic state for us to do the work in the 3D with these other beings so that we can continue to rise above that all. And once we get to a 5D level of consciousness where we start to see everything through the eyes of the divine, and we know that every person in our lives is working toward our higher good, who is here to serve us and support us, because at the end of the day, we created this life for us to do the work that we came here to do as unique individual souls. And that person on the other side actually was in a divine contract with you to do this work with you. And once you start to realize that every single person that you're in contact with has a soul contract with you, then you can start to let go of the guilt and the shame and the judgment and the blame that keeps you in the same state of mind that they are operating from. You rise above that. Now, there is a second type of guilt called intrinsic guilt. And intrinsic guilt is the guilt that you feel inside of you when your higher self starts to show you that you're operating out of integrity and out of alignment with the moral compass of your soul and how you want to operate as a divine being in this world. So it will come inside of you and you'll start to feel it when you know that there's something that needs to be repaired. So for instance, if I raise my voice or I yell at my kid, instantly I start to feel like, okay, that was too much. I took that too far. I need to make amends. Now there's the difference because that's the sovereign choice of me. It's coming through me. I'm the one that's saying that I feel I could have handled that differently, or I could have shown up differently and done better for the goals and the values that I have as a woman for how I want to operate in this life. So intrinsic guilt is an internal call to rise and be accountable and to take responsibility for how you acted, how you behaved, or what you said, and then make repair and make amends, which is different than extrinsic guilt that is put on you by other beings or the dark forces of the planet that want to keep you feeling like a small, insignificant being that doesn't have choices and that needs other relationships or other, I don't want to say it that way. How do I want to say this? That needs to sacrifice herself for someone else's happiness or someone else's comfort. So one thing that comes through is that you don't need to stay in discomfort or in any kind of pain for someone else's peace of mind. You are not here to hide your truth or to make anybody on this planet comfortable, because you're in a soul contract with every single person that you meet. And when you hide your truth, you're also forgetting that person needs to hear your truth because of the contract that you decided before you came into this body. So do it scared. Say it scared. Let it be messy, but it's better than keeping it inside. So the most important way to do this is using a formula that was developed by, what is it? Marshall Rosenberg, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I'm almost positive it's Marshall Rosenberg, who started and wrote the book Nonviolent Communication. Get the book, read it, follow it. It is literally, it will change your life for how you choose to work through those fears and how you choose to step out of your comfort zone with how you're communicating. But the first thing that happens when our soul wants us to say something and wants us to speak our truth is we start to ruminate about it. We start to analyze it over and over. And the ego will tell you, or society will tell you, that you're just overthinking. You're just overanalyzing. You just have anxiety. You need to let it go. And I'm here to tell you, no, you are here to speak your truth. You are here to get clear on what it is that you need to say that you're not saying, what it is that you need to ask for that you're not asking for, what it is that you need to express, that you're not expressing, and what it is that you're being called to act upon that you're choosing not to act on. Because that rumination, that deep like thing that you can't let go in your mind when you're replaying conversations or when you're aggravated or agitated about something, is actually your higher self communicating to you that you need to speak your truth. But before you speak your truth, you have to get very clear on what it is that you desire. So it's always a call back to self first. What is it that I want? What is it that upset me the most? And what do I need to say to clear the energy so that I can feel heard, understood, and taken seriously? Now, mind you, not everybody else out there is going to take you seriously and is going to understand what you're saying, but you don't need them to understand in order to say it. Because what happens is that our ego and our mind will start to talk us out of saying something because we tell ourselves the story, they should just know it, or they know that I'm upset, they should just come to me. Or what's another one that I hear? 1 second, I lost it. I don't know. It'll come back to me. If they really cared, then they wouldn't have said it anyways. Or, oh no, here's what I wanted to say is that I'm not going to say it because they'll never understand. And if they're not going to understand me and if they're not going to change, then I just need to keep it to myself. And that's actually not true, because if they don't really care how you feel and they're not willing to take a look at themselves, that is a hopeless relationship. And in dialectical behavior therapy, one thing that we teach in interpersonal effectiveness is rule number 1, end hopeless relationships. That's it. End it. It's hopeless. If they're not willing to sit down with you and have a conversation with you and care about how you genuinely feel, Roger, that's a problem. That's a huge problem, because it's hopeless then. There's no work. It's dead energy. It's a dead end relationship. There's no life giving. There's no life giving energy that's going into, there's no love. It's like my way or no way. And I'm sorry, but my way or no way is the highway. Like, do not pass go. You're done. Swipe left, over. Because that's the standard that we have to set for ourselves now. Our soul does not want us to be in any kind of a relationship or connection with someone who isn't willing to at least hear what you have to say. And they may not agree with you. They may have a different opinion. Perfect. We welcome those other opinions because no one's going to see it our way all of the time. And that's okay. But our work as higher dimensional beings is to still allow ourselves to love somebody, even if they don't agree with the way that we see things or the way that we see the world. It's okay. But can they still respect you? Can they treat you well? Can they not shame you? Can they not judge you? Because that's their work. But it's not our job to make them do that work. But it is our job for us to get clear on what it is that we want and what it is that we desire, so that we can invite a conversation using nonviolent communication, which is getting clear on what you want, getting clear on what happened, then inviting in the conversation. Hey, I've been thinking about this for the last couple days and it's really upsetting me. Can we talk about it? You invite them to have a conversation with you so that defenses are down. And then you use observable and describable facts. When we were on the phone the other day and you said this, it really upset me. So, observable and describable, using time, using space, using the exact words that were said, meaning it is 100% something that could be used in the court of law because every single person in the room would think it's a fact. There's no opinion in there whatsoever. And then the second piece of it or part of it is to say how you felt, which I already did. I felt really upset. It really hurt my feelings. Whatever it is that you needed to say, it really made me scared. It made me want to shut down. Then third is the need. Because at this point in my life, I really value open communication and honesty. And I need someone who is willing to consider the things that I have to say. I need to be with connections in my life that take me seriously, that care about my feelings. Because I was raised in an environment where I was dismissed, it's really important for me to have connections that don't do that to me anymore. Whatever it is that you need to say about what you need, as you say it at that time. So observe or describe using facts after you invite the conversation. Say how you felt, say what you need, and then you request the change. Most of us request the change right off the bat, and it raises defenses and it makes people not want to meet your needs. So it's very important to follow these steps, which I talk about in the book. And then it is, can you please do this next time? And most of the time it's fine. They're like, yeah, of course. If you're in a healthy relationship with someone, absolutely, because you would want to do that for them too. You don't want people holding stuff in or like feeling some kind of way about you and not expressing their truth. And it will also give you the opportunity to see what kind of relationship you're in. Does it have value? Is it karmic? Is it meant to be here for a reason, a season, or a lifetime? Because when you start to be really clear and you start to speak your truth, you'll find out right away what kind of relationship you're in based on how they respond to you. And then, only then, after you request for change, you may want to set the boundary. If this doesn't change, then here's what I'm going to have to do. If this doesn't change, then here's what I'm going to have to do because of that. To my son, if you keep treating me disrespectfully and if you don't shut off the video game when I tell you to shut it off, you're going to force me to take that away from you and you're not going to get it back. So they always have the choice to follow through with the request. Always. Like, you're not trying to control it, but you also stand in your power when you say, if that doesn't work for you, here's what I'm going to have to do because that need that I have is so important to me. Because I value myself, because I honor myself, because I demand that I'm being heard and I'm being treated well at this point in my life, and there is no other way anymore. That's what we get to live in. And that is how we set up relationships for success. That's how we stand in our power as women because we're operating from our heart. We're operating from integrity. So if this makes sense to you, I would love to hear in the comments below. Share your story with me and make sure you hit that like button or subscribe or share this with someone that you know so that they know that you're coming from a place of love and that they know that there's opportunities available to them to work through their fear and to stand in their authentic truth. And if it interests you, get on my waiting list. My online course is coming in 1 month. 1 month, and it's going to fill up fast because it is a super powerful course that's going to help you win the war that's going on within you so that you can feel embodied and empowered as the divine feminine being that your soul called you to be. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I love you with all my heart, and I can't wait to share more amazing content with you.